Welcome to the Philippines, a country that is colorful mix of tradition and modernity, spice and sweetness, and more festivals that you can shake a stick at. Check out these ornate churches dotting the countryside, complete with intricate carvings and gold leaf works. You'll be amazed at the level of detail that went into building these masterpieces. And speaking of masterpieces, Filipino cuisines is a culinary adventure that you won't forget. Thanks to the Spanish influence, dishes like adobo, lechon, and caldereta will leave your taste buds begging for more. Also, notice the Catholic faith, which is an integral part of Filipino culture. Witness the grand processions, colorful festivals, and solemn Holy Weeks, observance that celebrate this rich spiritual heritage. But where did this came from? Who influenced them? To understand further, let's start from the beginning. Initially, the Spanish considered the Philippines to reach the lucrative spice island of East Indies. However, even after the Portuguese and Dutch had made this approach impossible, the Spanish continued to remain in the archipelago. A Portuguese navigator, Ferdinand Magellan, led the first Spanish expedition to the Philippines in 1521.
On March 16, 1521, when Philippines was discovered by Magellan.
Then, Magellan landed on Cebu and died during the Battle of Mactan, where he and his troops were defeated by the native warriors led by Datu Lapu-Lapu.
And after that, the King of Spain that time, King Philip II, sent another 3 more expeditions but ended in disaster.
The Philippines was named after King Philip II of Spain by the Spanish explorer Ruy Lopez de Villalobos during his expedition to the islands in 1543. At the time, the Philippines was not a unified country but was divided into various independent tribes and kingdoms. Villalobos named the archipelago Las Islas Filipinas in honor of King Philip II, who was the ruler of Spain at that time. The name was later adopted by the Spanish colonial authorities and became the official name of the country. In 1565, where King Philip II sent Miguel Lopez de Legazpi, who established the first permanent Spanish settlement in Cebu. Later, the Spanish city of Manila is created in 1571. And by the end of the 16th century, most of the coastal and lowland areas from Luzon to northern Mindanao were under Spanish control. Then later, the Spanish friars joined forces with soldiers to achieve the conversion of most of the locals to Roman Catholicism. However, the Moros, as the Spanish called the Muslims of Mindanao and Sulu, were never fully conquered by Spain. Spanish rule the Philippines during the first 100 years was exercised through a type of tax farming known as the encomienda, which was imported from the Americas.
Encomienda was a system of labor organization used by the Spanish colonizers in the Philippines during the colonial period. Under the system, the Spanish government granted a specific number of indigenous people, known as encomiendas, to individual colonizers who were responsible for their welfare and conversion to Christianity. In exchange for this responsibility, encomenderos, holders of encomiendas, were allowed to extract tribute or labor from these indigenous people, which often involved forced labor and harsh treatments. The encomenderos were also responsible for protecting their encomiendas from attacks by other colonizers and indigenous groups. The encomienda system was intended to promote the spread of Christianity and Spanish culture, as well as the establishment of reliable source of labor for Spanish colonizers. However, the system was often abused and exploitive, the encomenderos subjecting indigenous people to harsh working conditions and violence.
The abusive treatment of the local tribute payers, neglect of religious instruction, and frequent withholding of revenues from the crown caused the Spanish to abandon the encomienda system by the end of the 17th century. The Governor-General was appointed by the king and had the power to appoint his own civil and military governors to rule directly, making him like an independent monarch. Manila dominated the islands politically, commercially, and ecclesiastically. The galleon trade ensured Manila's commercial primacy and it attracted a large Chinese community. The Archbishop vied with the Governor-General for political supremacy, religious orders, hospitals, schools, and then Bishop acquired great wealth, mostly in land. The priests and friars had a command of local languages, were among the lay Spanish, and they were an invaluable source of information to the colonial government.
The Spanish clergy's cultural goal was the full Christianization and Hispanization of the Filipino, which include suppressing local religions and ancient beliefs. Economic and political institutions
Can we talk about like the political and economic state of the world right now?
were altered under Spanish impact, but perhaps less thoroughly than in the religious realm. Agricultural technology changed slowly until the late 18th century, and the socio-economic consequences of Spanish policies reinforced class differences. The heirs of pre-Spanish nobility were known as Principalia and played an important role in the peer-dominated local government.
The Principalia refers to the descendants of free Spanish noble families in the Philippines. These noble families held significant political, economic, and social power before the Spanish colonization of the Philippines in the 16th century. However, during the Spanish colonial period, the Principalia played a crucial role in the governance of local communities. The Principalia were appointed as local leaders, often holding positions such as gobernadorcillos or cabezas de barangay. They were responsible for implementing Spanish colonial policies, collecting taxes, and maintaining law and order in their communities. In return, the Principalia enjoyed certain privileges such as exemptions from tribute payments and the ability to own private property. The role of Principalia in local governance continued even after the end of Spanish colonial rule the Philippines.
And that's how Spanish occupied the Philippines. It ended in 1898 after over 300 years of colonization. The legacy of the Spanish period can still be seen in many aspects of Philippine culture and society today. Christianity, especially Catholicism, was introduced during the Spanish period and has had a significant impact on Philippine culture and values. The Spanish language was the official language of the Philippines during the colonial period and has since been incorporated into the Filipino language. Spanish colonial architecture can be seen throughout the Philippines and is characterized using stone and brick arches and decorative details. The hierarchical system brought by the Spanish favored those of mixed Spanish and Filipino ancestry over the native Filipinos, leading to economic and social disparities. The Spanish period in the Philippines was complex and layered history that continues to shape the country's present and nature.